to Landscape Photography World, the podcast for everyone passionate about landscape photography. I'm Grant Swinburne, and I'm your host on this show, talking to landscape photographers about their motivations, likes and dislikes. This time I'm talking to Tristan Todd about his art, the motivations behind it, and the structure of his new business, along with a range of other topics I hope you'll find interesting. Tristan is a landscape photographer based in Vancouver, British Columbia. Over the last few years, photography has become a core part of who he is, transforming the way he sees the world and becoming his deepest passion. Photography has become a vehicle for Tristan to express himself and push outside his comfort zone. After spending some time writing code and exploring virtual worlds, oblivious to the very real and beautiful world around him, through photography he has learned not only how to see the world, but to experience it as well. Tristan's goal with his images is not to strictly document the environment, but to convey his experiences and feelings. A firm believer in discovering new compositions and exploring lesser-known places, he spends his days trekking into the wilderness and mountain areas near his hometown. We discuss how he decided to quit his job in September 2021 and pursue a full-time career in photography, as well as his passion for creating stunning forest and winter scenes from the beautiful Rockies a short distance from his front door. I hope you enjoy the show. G'day, Tristan. Welcome to Landscape Photography World. How are you going?
Oh, I'm good. Thanks for having me on here.
Oh, absolute pleasure, mate. I've been looking at what you do for some time, and seeing you on Twitter and Instagram and YouTube and a few other places for a little while. Why don't you start by telling us, how you got started and what really got you passionate about landscape photography?
I don't really have any crazy story. I started out because I was bored, and I used to work. I worked in the restaurant industry, and I'd work and get off at like 3 a.m, and a lot of times I'd just get home, play video games, and then I'd go out for a walk at sunrise, and
Yep.
I'd take photos with my phone, and that's what basically sparked my interest. Like, not long after that, I had already bought my new camera, and yeah, just got the ball rolling.
Yeah, cool. Okay. So how long have you been doing it?
It's been about 10 years now. Time goes by fast, apparently.
Yeah, absolutely. And do you sort of for people that don't know your work, how would you describe your style and the type of thing you like to do?
So I'm most well known for my forest work, rainforests, canyons, the trees. Um, Usually on the darker and moodier side. I'm not the biggest fan of colorful scenes.
Mm-hmm.
Like, some photographers, they'll have a lot of sunrises and sunsets. Like, I
Yeah,
honestly, I barely
I'm one of them, but that's okay.
like
I
I
like forest
barely
scenes too.
I barely care about the colors. I don't know. It's just I'm a golden hour kind of guy. Golden hour and the moody forests.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that's what you'll see.
So
Like the
you like
vast
you
majority.
like foggy days.
Oh yeah, fog and rain.
So what is it about it that sort of makes you want to go out in those foggy conditions or rainy conditions that most people kind of want to sit inside next to a fire or something?
Yeah, so I just find it to be really refreshing. I don't know. There's something special about being out there, and it's pouring rain. You hear the rain around you. You hear it falling on the ferns and the forest floor, and there's not many people around because they're all staying inside. So that's kind of a nice bonus. Plus, all the atmospheric conditions that come with the rain, especially up here, because the forests are in the mountains. So those clouds come down lower, and you get the fog.
Yep. So where is here?
So I live near Vancouver,
Mm-hmm.
so I do a lot of my forest photography in the North Shore Mountains, which is in the city of North Vancouver and West Vancouver.
Yep. And do you find that is, I guess obviously because you're shooting around that area, that's a big influence on you. I mean, you've got mountains galore and canyons galore and forests galore to choose from. How do you choose where to go, and what are you doing when you're doing that planning stage? Are you thinking about a particular image that you want to capture, or are you letting the landscape speak to you and just go and take it more in a more random fashion?
Yeah, so I'm not a big planner. Uh, I like I look for weather that'll give me the light that I want, and then I try to go where that light's gonna be.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't really enjoy planning photos. I enjoy yeah, like you said, the randomness and just kind of getting to know the landscape and just
Sure.
I've been like these places, I've been to them so many times. There's one canyon I've been to like 40 times.
Wow. Okay.
So every time I go back, I always find something new. I find it never gets old. Just a great feeling to kind of get to know an area like that. And then when the light is going to do something, like a while back, we had this crazy fog for days.
Mm-hmm.
I knew exactly what shots I wanted to get already. So I just so I may not plan, but I'll keep things in mind for when the light's going to be good for that kind of shot.
Sure. Sure. So uh, are you working in photography full time, part time? It's a hobby. Is it a career? How do you view your photography?
So it's full time now. I left the restaurant industry in September 2020,
Mm-hmm.
and
Probably a
hopefully
good
it's
time to
gonna.
get out of that industry.
Yeah, that's actually the whole pandemic thing is actually kind of what sparked like my desire to quit and just leave it. So I got laid off for 2 months,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm like, oh wow, this is amazing. I can I can get paid and focus on my photography. So yeah, September came along, and I'm like, you know what? I think it's time to just jump in and do this.
Yeah. Okay. Was that a hard decision to make?
Uh, it's it was somewhat hard. I'd been mulling it over for probably a year or two, just kind of casually. But I didn't really feel like my photography was at the right point to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I'm quite fortunate. I've got a safety net. I live with my parents still because it's just too expensive here.
Sure. Sure.
So I figure I might as well take advantage of that while I can and try to build something up.
So, how are you? I guess just looking at the business side of it, how are you structuring that? Are you, making money out of prints, making money out of doing workshops, anything else that you're doing, or are you just sort of concentrating on, things like NFTs or whatever?
It's a little bit of everything, honestly. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's like I went and counted the different revenue streams at one point, and I think it was like eight, like seven or eight.
Yep.
So yeah, there's prints. I've started doing workshops. Last summer I was doing just day workshops like in the canyons,
Sure.
and this summer I'll be doing some multi-day stuff in the mountains, in the Rockies. Yeah, so NFTs are a nice extra income as well.
Mm-hmm.
What else is there? A little bit of licensing, not a ton. That's I find not really big for my work.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and tutorials and stuff like that.
Yeah. Right. Okay. So what can people expect that sign up for a workshop, for example? What sort of things are you? talking to them about and showing them?
So I'm really big on not just showing people the shot, but actually teaching them and giving them the skills that they can use to find their own shots. Because
Mm-hmm.
I know there's workshops out there where it's just like a very guided tour that you get. They go to one spot, they show you the shot, and then you go to the next spot.
Yep.
With me, it's definitely not like that. It's more spontaneous, and like I said, actually focus on equipping them with the skills that they need to become a stronger photographer.
Sure, sure. And I guess rainforest photography in particular, it has its own set of challenges in terms of, isolating subjects and, adjustment of your composition so that, elements within that frame are, balanced, etc. I guess, are these the sorts of things that you're talking to them about?
Yeah, exactly. I like the forest is so chaotic, so I try to teach them how to break that down and to look
Yep.
at shapes, look at lines, look at atmosphere, and see how you can arrange things to kind of simplify the scene and then kind of reduce the chaos. Because yeah, that's like the number one thing that people struggle with in the forest. It's just like how messy it is.
Mm, mm. Yeah, those tangled backgrounds of lots of trees can be quite confusing to the eye, I guess. And
Yeah.
as you say, sorting out those elements or the elements that you want to incorporate into your composition are, there's challenges and various skills associated with that.
Yeah, exactly. And when I'm teaching that, I learned this method in the restaurant industry actually.
Okay.
I took this course because I was a manager, so we had to take various courses and whatnot. Anyway, this one was called Train the Trainer,
Yep.
and I basically learned how to train people.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I kind of adopted that approach with my photography workshops.
Right.
So basically, I split it into three parts. The first part is where I do most of the work.
Yep.
The second part is we're more 50-50. And then at the end, they're doing most of the work, and I will actually ask them questions and get them to show me and
Sure.
demonstrate what they've learned. And so far, it's actually worked really well. At the end of each one I've done, they're walking out of the workshop creating their own awesome images with
Yeah.
minimal input from me.
Fantastic. I guess what's one of the most important things to remember when you're hosting and running a workshop?
I feel like I don't have the best answer for that just because I'm still quite new to workshops.
Mm-hmm.
Like I've only done the day ones. I haven't even done the multiple day trips yet. So
Yeah.
I don't think I really have a good answer for that yet.
Yeah, okay, that's fine. How far afield are you travelling to get your shots? Are you, travelling all over British Columbia or all over Canada or internationally, or are you trying to stay fairly local? And I don't mean just with the workshops, I mean for your own personal photography.
Yeah, so this is actually a great question. I love this one. Um, I basically stopped international travel years ago. I
Mm-hmm.
think can't think I think 5 years ago or 4 years ago was the last time I did, and just because I decided to focus on Canada.
Yep,
The country is so big and so diverse. Like you could spend a whole lifetime exploring just BC alone and still not see everything.
absolutely. Yeah,
And like I figure if I'm here, I might as well take advantage of that. There's so much to see that people haven't really seen before.
mm,
And I mean, some of it is even just like locally, like in the mountains here, the North Shore Mountains. There are things that very few people have seen because they just haven't gone looking for them.
yeah, yeah. Well, most
And it,
people, they'll turn up in the car, get out of the car park. They might go for a few kilometres hike if you're lucky. Um, take their photos with their iPhones, get back in the car, and go home. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's actually in North Vancouver, there's there's an old growth forest, but pretty much no one knows about it
Yep.
because there's no trails there. You have to take one trail, then you have to cross a river and hike
Mhm.
up the river, and then go bushwhack up the mountain a bit.
Yep.
And so yeah, it was basically untouched in the logging days, but nobody knows about it. So I've been over there a few times with people like Blake Randall and Matt Jackish just to explore, and
Sure,
it's just
sure.
amazing.
So when you're going into those sorts of environments, what are the things that you're sort of conscious of in terms of both looking after that environment, but I guess also, you don't necessarily want to be blazing a trail that then ends up with hordes of Instagrammers turning up to take selfies in red and yellow jackets, do you?
Yeah, exactly. So I'm pretty big on not geotagging,
Mm-hmm.
and I mean, like the place I was just talking about, I mean, even if I did geotag, there wouldn't actually be like a geotag for that place because
Sure.
it's just not on lists anywhere, basically.
So you can just say British Columbia and leave it at that.
Yeah, so what I'll usually do is I'll say the nearest city or the provincial park. So for
Sure.
a lot of my local hikes, it'll either be North Vancouver or just West Vancouver.
Right.
But yeah, it's definitely a tricky one because I mean, I think it's pretty safe to say I have had an impact on some places. Like I've made them a bit more popular.
Yep.
Like there's one called Cypress Falls Park, and I think I've probably inspired a lot of photographers to get out there, from what I
Sure.
can tell. But yeah, it's definitely a an interesting question.
Okay. So when you're going to somewhere like that, and you say you're not a real good planner, how do you plan a trip like that? Because obviously, if you know about those locations or you're finding those locations, how are you finding them? How are you pulling together a trip like that?
So I love planning trips. I don't like planning shots.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. No,
I like the distinction.
it's kind of weird. I really enjoy planning trips. Like I don't know what's wrong with me, but I'm planning several right now, and I love it.
So how do you go about it?
Sometimes it starts just by zooming around on Google Earth.
Okay.
That's actually that's how I'm planning a trip next summer, and that's how it started. I was zooming around up near the Alaska BC border,
Uh-huh.
found some sweet looking mountains, and figured out how to get there. And I've already asked some friends, and they're interested, so we're gonna make it happen.
Fair enough. And what about things like safety and so forth? Because British Columbia, some of those more remote areas, they're going to be places which are habitats for bears and mountain lions and so forth. What are you doing in terms of safety? Do you go out there with somebody that's got a gun, or do you just take your bear spray, or what are you doing there?
So I'm pretty big on safety. I'm very risk averse. Like
Mm-hmm.
I don't do stupid things for my photos.
Yep.
And I always tell someone where I'm going and when I'm going to be back, and I make sure that I text them when I'm back, so that
Yep.
way they know if they don't get a text from me, um, to say call search and rescue. And of course, I carry bear spray. I mean, bears aren't really a big threat here near Vancouver.
Mm-hmm.
Black bears are quite afraid of people, but sometimes attacks do happen, or sometimes they're stubborn and they don't want to get out of the way, and like you don't have an exit.
Yep.
And I also carry an inReach for satellite communication just in case.
Sure. Sure.
And I
So
don't do I don't do anything too crazy. I'm quite afraid of heights, so that keeps
Yeah,
me in
okay.
check.
Have there been any hair-raising experiences with animals or anything that you've had?
So this is something I don't know. I don't know what it is, but I never seem to run into bears.
Okay.
Never. I don't know. I don't know why. I don't. Maybe I just make enough noise because I do. That's one of the things I do. I make sure, like, if I'm hiking around by myself, I make sure I'm like smacking my hiking pole
Yeah.
as I go, just so that way I don't surprise a bear around a corner or whatever. Yeah, like I've been on trails where people come in the other way. They're like, "Oh, we saw a bear just up there," and I don't see anything. I'm almost kind of disappointed.
Uh,
But I did have a hair raising experience with a waterfall,
okay.
and that's actually why I'm so afraid of heights.
Right. Okay.
I got myself stuck on this narrow steep ledge
Yeah.
right next to a nice drop off into raging water and canyon, and I think I'm pretty lucky I didn't fall, and it scared me. I finally got out of it, and I was just shaking for probably like good hour afterwards, just
Wow.
terrified. So yeah, I can't do heights anymore thanks to that. I did one stupid thing and I learned from it.
What motivates you creatively, and what what motivations have you got for your style of photography? I guess what are the things that are really making you, put together the images that you do?
Ooh, that's a big question. So I've always been a big fantasy nerd,
Okay.
and when I was a teenager and in my early 20s, I read so much fantasy, and I loved the sense of exploration and wonder that those books gave me, and I think that's really kind of been an inspiration for my photography. Like I'm kind of trying to capture things that fill me with that sense. So yeah, when I'm out there, I'm exploring and I see these beautiful things. They kind of fill me with that same feeling as I got when reading those books, and that's what I really want to try to capture. And that's why, like I said earlier, like color is not the most important. It's atmosphere, like golden hour or
Yeah.
moody, foggy forest and stuff like that. And I also okay, struggling with this one.
It's okay. Don't worry about it. Just say what you feel, man.
Actually, I think that one's good. The thing I was thinking of, it doesn't work anyway. So
Okay, fair enough. What about the? I guess what is the feeling that it gives you to be both out there, but also when you come back, in that creative process, what are the things that you're feeling, I guess, when you're in the field, and what are you feeling when you're processing the images that you've captured?
yeah, so when I'm out there, I've talked about this a little bit before on I think a blog entry and the occasional Instagram post, but I really like to look for solitude, and I a lot of people kind of associate that with loneliness, but I don't think that's really the case. For me, solitude is kind of connecting with nature out there
Hmm.
and connecting with myself.
Sure.
And that is, I think, really important for me.
Yeah. Okay. You said you're trying to, I guess, create a feeling. Are you? I mean, obviously, that then starts to beg the question about the processing versus the capturing side of things. Are you? are you putting much time into the post processing, and are you adding things or taking things away, or are you just pretty much leaving the scene as you saw it, or as you captured it in camera?
That one really depends on how good the light was.
Mm-hmm.
I find the better the light, the less editing I have to do.
Sure.
But I mean, sometimes there's exceptions. Sometimes I'll have amazing light and I actually kind of struggle to figure out what to do with it. And it takes a
Yeah.
while and it takes some kind of working, the molding, that kind of thing. But I don't shy away from Photoshop.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Sometimes, yeah, like I'll paint in a little bit of extra mist or actually paint in a bit of mist because for me, I kind of treat the process as if I'm painting.
Sure. Sure.
And
It's creating art as opposed to just pure photography.
yeah, exactly. And for me, like creating that sense of depth and atmosphere is really, really important.
Sure. So, how much time would you spend on sort of processing? Is on a per image basis? Would it be 5, 10, 15 minutes, or hours and days? And I guess the processing time aside, when you're thinking about the images, do you race home, get them on the computer as quick as you can, and get editing, or do you tend to let things gestate and you've got a queue of stuff that you're waiting to work on?
I find my edits, uh, they don't take as long anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Back when I was newer in photography, like I could edit for hours and hours, but
Yeah.
nowadays I find usually forest shots maybe like half an hour to an hour. Mountain ones take a bit longer just because I find, I mean, I don't shoot the mountains quite as much. I shoot forests all the time, so it's just
Yep.
quicker to I have a pretty good idea of what exactly I want when I go in with the forest edit. With mountains, I find it takes a little bit of kind of playing around and experimenting.
Sure. So, are you trying to uh, you're trying to work through that process, as I said, immediately after you get the images back, or are you letting things take their time? And do you ever come back to images later and just rework them completely?
Yeah, I'm one of those people that's constantly reworking their older images, and I do find that I like to edit pretty quickly after a shoot.
Mm-hmm.
Not always, but usually. Occasionally there'll be certain shots that I do leave and kind of just let them marinate.
Yep.
But for the most part, I like to edit quickly. I know I've got friends that have like huge backlogs, or like they're just editing a shot from 2 years ago. I'm not that person.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So when you're working a scene in the field, are you what are the things that you're looking for? You mentioned the quality of light and so forth. Is that sort of your primary uh, thing that you start with, and then you start to work the comp from there, or do you start with compositional elements and then wait for the light?
I definitely start with the light in most cases. I look for things that look good with the light that's on hand. I find that's the best way to not come away kind of disappointed. Like if you go in somewhere expecting like epic fog and light rays, well, you're you're gonna be disappointed a lot of the
Yeah.
time. So I've really learned how to work with the light that I have. Um, like I've really come to love sunny days in the forest,
Yep.
and which I mean, a lot of people they see a sunny day and they're like, why would I shoot on that day? But I find in the forest you can really still create a lot of depth and atmosphere. Like you look for something that's illuminated in the background, and you find a foreground that's in the shadow, and you can
Yeah.
kind of balance it out and stuff like that.
Yeah. How do you handle the contrast though? Because some of those sunny days you can get those really really bright highlights and really really dark shadows in the forests. How are you handling those sorts of situations?
Oh yeah, sometimes the dynamic range is uh big. And if it is that contrasty, I'll do some bracketing
Yep.
and then just blend them.
Yeah. Sure. Do you use any particular tools in your blending, or are you doing it all sort of manually in Photoshop?
For forest images, I like to use luminosity masks for my blending, just because it's so precise and yeah, you can basically just target any little spot and
Sure.
blend in the right exposure.
How did you learn your processing? Were you self-taught, or did you go through formal learning?
It's a bit of a mix. It's mostly self-taught, but I have bought tutorials from other photographers to kind of
Okay.
mostly for inspiration. I
Yep.
find it can be really, really good way to get new ideas. And like Photoshop is such a big program.
Yeah.
Um, I don't think there's anybody out there that knows everything about like Photoshop. So you can pick up a lot of interesting little tidbits just by watching other people.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. There's a few people out there that have got a pretty good handle on most of it, but there's just so many different ways to get the same result. I find that
Exactly. Yeah.
you know you can go and look up how do I kind of achieve what I'm trying to achieve and get five different tutorial videos on YouTube.
Exactly.
I'll tell you a slightly different way of doing it.
Yep. Yeah, there's just an almost overwhelming amount of options and functions, filters, and all that stuff.
Yeah, yeah. So who are the people that you've looked at in terms of inspiration, and who are the aspirational photographers that you sort of go to when you're looking to extend yourself?
Definitely number one is Mark Adamus.
Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily just because of his photography, but what he does to get those photos, like
Sure.
the exploration, going to new places that people don't go to, and things like that. Like that has been just a huge inspiration for me. It's a big part of why I decided to explore Canada and kind of look off the beaten track and find new places.
Right.
And then there's other photographers too, like Ryan Dyer, Ted
Yeah.
Gore. My list probably sounds pretty typical.
Oh yeah. Everybody has their own sort of lists, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, and then but my friends really inspire me as well, like Matt
Okay.
Jackish, Blake Randall,
Yep.
Arpan Das. Yeah.
Yeah. Who do you go to for advice about photography?
A lot of times I'll send shots to Matt Jackish and kind of just bounce things off him, or even in the Discord that I run, Landscape Photography Worldwide. We've got an image critique section that,
Okay.
and occasionally I'll post something in there, and yeah, usually just ask friends whose opinions I know I trust.
Mm-hmm.
I find if you're looking for critique, you don't want to just ask anybody. You kind of want to ask someone maybe who you look up to, or if like someone whose style is similar to you,
Yep.
because ultimately there's so many things you can do with a shot, and like you don't want to do something that's that just doesn't feel right, if that's
Yeah. Yeah.
a good way to word it. I'm not sure.
No, that's fine. Tell us a bit more about the that group.
Yeah, so it was just over a year ago that I started that, and I got a few other photographers together. Is me, um, Dipter, Benjamin Mays,
Yep.
and Morgan Tui, and we kind of just we started this group because I mean you've heard everyone complains about Instagram and algorithms and
Sure.
all that stuff. And so yeah, we just wanted a place where you could kind of create a community and not have to worry about likes and engagement and all that stuff, and just just talk with people and make friends. And
Yeah.
that's what happened. And it's been really awesome to see because you get people in there who have very different views on photography. Like some people are more towards the purist side,
Hmm.
others are not, but everyone gets along.
Yeah.
And it's awesome.
So how did you I guess get started with that when and how did you decide where to put it? And because I mean there's a plethora of different ways that you could pull that together. Why Discord and why
Yeah, so I like to play video games, and Discord, that's how it started. Its target
Yep.
audience was gamers, so they could talk to each other while they're playing online.
Sure.
But it's Discord really started to get picked up by just like communities. There's a lot of examples out there, and I was actually inspired by a local group of photographers. It's more oriented to like street photography
Yep.
and limited to Vancouver, but I saw that, I'm like, okay, why don't I do that, but for landscape photography and everyone? And yeah, so that's what I did, and that apparently worked.
Cool. Cool. So you talked a little bit about, well, you mentioned, I should say, Instagram. How do you
Mhm.
see social media now in terms of a platform, and where do you see it going in the future?
That's a tricky one. Video has obviously become much more important and prevalent, which I'm not the biggest fan of.
Hmm.
So I kind of wish Instagram would stick more to its roots instead of trying to compete with TikTok and stuff like that.
Yeah, I don't think you're on your own there. I think there's lot
Yeah,
of
definitely. I'm definitely not alone with that opinion. um, yeah, it's a tricky one. It feels like algorithms kind of dominate everything, and I don't really see that going away,
no,
unfortunately.
yeah,
Like that's they milk money and with that, and that's how they get their eyeball time. So yeah, I don't know. It's a tricky one. Like I honestly have no idea where it's gonna be in 5 years. Instagram might not even be a thing in 5 years. Who knows?
yeah, or it'll just be more like TikTok than it is now.
Exactly. But they did bring back the chronological feed,
I did
which
see
kind
that.
of
Yes, they
so
they listen a little bit.
yeah, the fact that you can at least choose it, and then you don't get ads in it either. So that maybe there's a little bit of hope.
You never know.
Yeah, you never
What,
know.
so what about other social media? I mean, you're pretty active on Twitter, I've seen, and I'm not sure about your YouTube channel. I think it's about a month old. The last post. I don't know how frequently you're into that. Do you do Facebook at all? What about the rest of social media?
Yeah, so I've got Facebook and YouTube, but I don't really use them very much.
Hmm.
I just it's more of a time constraint. Like I would love to do more video work, but it just is way too time consuming.
Yeah.
Maybe in the future, but we'll see. Uh Definitely active on Twitter. That's uh that's actually been pretty awesome. I've met a lot of new photographers through that, and and I'm not just there for NFTs either. Like I'm there to share my photos and
Yeah.
make connections with people on there, which has been a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think the photography community. I mean, I've seen some animosity between some of the non
Yes.
NFT fraternity and the NFT fraternity. You know, I I kind of don't care how people are selling their images. I'm more interested in the quality of the work and
Yep.
what they're showing. And to be honest, I fairly rarely read what's been the text around the image. It's more around the image and how I react to that as to whether or not I'll comment on it or put a like or a retweet on it.
Yep. Yeah, I'm the same way, honestly. Like I'm there to share my photos and see the photos of people that I follow.
Yeah, yeah. So, talk to me a little bit about NFTs and why, or when, and why, and how you got into them.
Okay, when did I get into those? Everything is such a blur. I'm kind of struggling to remember what month that was.
Yeah,
but
it's
but
moved fairly quickly, I think.
yeah, it definitely does. But I mean, I've been into cryptocurrencies for a long time, for a good like probably at least 6 years now. I've always had an interest, and I've done just random trading on and off and stuff like that. And when NFTs first kind of became big, I was a bit skeptical. I thought it was just going to be a fad. So I just kind of decided to wait and see.
Yep.
And then I saw that it was because that was back when there was basically only one guy buying photography NFTs.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm like, okay, that seems kind of weird. So I'm just kind of wait and see how it goes. And then it really started picking up steam, and I'm like, okay, this is actually going to be a thing. So you know what? I've always been a fan of cryptocurrency, so I'm gonna give it a shot,
Sure.
and it's been a lot of fun, and definitely the extra cash has been appreciated.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. Do you see it as a balanced or an unbalanced market at the moment?
What do you mean by balance?
Well, I guess supply and demand.
Right.
When you're looking at the economics of it, the supply, I think, at the moment seems to be outstripping the demand.
Yes.
And I guess the question in my mind around it is how long that is sustainable.
Yeah, I totally agree. There's the supply is just crazy, and a lot more work is being put out than is being bought. Um, Hard to say what's gonna happen. It kind of did slow down a bit right now,
Hmm.
but then it does that quite a bit. It'll slow down and pick up and slow down and pick up again.
Yeah, yeah,
And it's hard to say because cryptocurrency overall tends to go in these really big boom and bust cycles.
yep,
And the next bust cycle is coming. It's
yeah.
just a
No,
matter of when. So yeah, I'm not really sure what's gonna happen. Like people still might be buying NFTs when it's crashed, but maybe not. Who knows?
yeah, yeah.
There's a
How do you
lot of
go on?
there's just a lot of uncertainty with that, I think.
Yeah, yeah. How do you respond to people that might criticise you or uh, NFTs in general based on the environmental impact? For someone that's obviously quite caring about the environment and really interested in recording it, how do you respond to people that are sort of pointing the finger at Ethereum in particular?
I find it to be pretty frustrating because it seems like a lot of people have picked their side, they've picked their opinion, and they don't want to move or
Yeah,
budge or consider anything that other people are saying. Um, I won't name any names.
Sure, sure. I'm not here to point fingers
Yeah,
myself.
but that has been quite frustrating because I mean, with everything, there's pros and cons, and I don't think it's just about the carbon output of NFTs. I mean, I think the thing to consider is a person's overall carbon footprint.
Yep,
Like, like for me, I don't travel internationally anymore, and
yep.
I literally I take the bus to my local hikes that I do all the time. Like the majority of my portfolio I've done, like I took the bus and went for a hike. We're very fortunate here in Vancouver to have that.
Yeah, yeah,
So for me, I feel a bit less guilty about getting into them because I mean, like it or not, there is that carbon footprint.
yep,
I I think it is a bit overstated because no matter what I do or what other photographers do, that blockchain is going and a new block is always being mined regardless of transactions. Like that's how the system works.
yep.
So when I mint something, it's not actually it's not actually outputting carbon, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it's not contributing
It's
significantly. Yeah,
yeah. So, but I mean, there's still an effect. Like if you're part of this system and you're encouraging other people to join, that would have an effect. Like that kind of thing.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely a tricky one and very nuanced, I think.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. What thing do you enjoy most about being a photographer?
Getting outside. That was actually because I used to be a huge gamer. Like that's all I would do. I
Yep,
just play video games in my spare time, and I didn't care about the outside. But then I kind of picked up a camera when I was going for those walks, and that just really I don't know that just something changed there, and I started going out more and more, and just I don't know. I can't really imagine myself sitting in front of a screen playing video games all day anymore. It's not the same. I feel like I'm wasting my time. But when I'm out there taking photos, it's that's kind of when you feel alive. You feel like you're actually doing something.
yeah. I think the act of creating as well, has a massive positive impact on mental health as well.
Oh, it totally does. And even back then when I was in my gamer days, I really liked programming. So, I'd I'd build websites or games and stuff in my free time. And I don't think it was really art, but it was creative.
Yeah,
And I think it's really important to always have some sort of creative outlet. It does wonders for mental health and in this case physical health as well.
yeah, yeah, definitely. I guess, do you have a physical health regime that other than getting out and hiking? Do you do any? You're in the gym every second day, or
No, it's definitely not me. I've been kind of slacking off since the late fall. Just didn't have a ton of motivation, and I've found it's actually been a lot harder since leaving the restaurant industry.
yeah,
Um, because I was always on my feet, always burning calories, but now I spend so much time on the computer, trying to build the business and work on the website and stuff like that. Like I have to remind myself that I need to be active.
yeah, yeah. No, I know exactly what you mean. Have you ever hit a creative wall, and how did you handle that?
Oh yeah, definitely. I think that's something every artist goes through. For me, one of the ways I kind of got through that was just switching things up. So I instead of going out to the forest, I go shoot the city, and I don't know, I found that just really helped a lot. And I have the same approach to my city shots that I do to like my landscapes, but I think it's just a different setting, a different creative setting, I guess.
Yeah, okay.
And it just like cleanses the palate.
Yeah, I know what you mean. What do you like to do when you're not out shooting?
I still play video games a little bit. I'm a big fan of Halo, if you've heard of
Okay.
that.
So you have you watched the movie yet,
Oh, the show.
or is it no? It's a series, isn't it?
Yeah, so Paramount picked it up and it's a TV show and I'm actually enjoying it.
Okay.
It's definitely it seems like a love or hate kind of thing.
Yeah,
Some
it's a
some
rarity.
fans.
I've found that most of the TV shows or movies that have been made from video games tend to not be very good.
Yeah, that is a very big trend for some reason. I'm not really sure why that's the case, but yeah. Um as far as video game adaptations go, I'd say this is quite good.
Mm.
So okay, sorry, it just got off my mind got off track there.
It's all right. We were talking about what you like to do when you're not out shooting.
Yeah, so the occasional video game still. I don't think I'll ever fully shake that. And binge watching TV shows.
Okay.
I still read some fantasy occasionally. I've been kind of slacking, not gonna lie, but I still love it.
Okay. So, are there any other photographers out there you think I should be talking to on the podcast?
Oh yeah, definitely. Matt Jackus should be a good one. I know
Okay.
he's done a few podcasts already.
Sure.
Let's see here. Arpan Das would be another good guy to do.
Yep.
Who else? There's so many names and my brain is overwhelmed.
I've got a long list, so one or two to add to it's not a bad thing. So I've got one more question, and it's for some the most important one that I can ask, because it's an issue that I think divides and also brings people together. Do you like pineapple on pizza?
Ooh, yes. This is people get pretty heated over this question.
Absolutely, it's an important issue.
Yeah, so I'm okay with pineapple on pizza. What I don't like is the Hawaiian or ham and pineapple. Like, I hate that pizza. No, I think that's like the worst use of pineapple ever. If you're putting something sweet like pineapple on a pizza, then it's best paired with something spicy, like a spicy chicken kind of pizza with jalapenos and pineapple and garlic white sauce.
You're getting exotic there.
A little bit. But yeah, I think it works if it's done right.
Yeah, fair enough.
How about you?
I'm kind of neutral. If it's on a pizza that's there, I'll eat it, and I don't mind a ham and pineapple. The old Hawaiian's okay. I don't go out of my way to order it, and I'll certainly think about putting it into the next one that I get where I've got a bit of spice on the pizza. I think that's probably not a bad call.
Oh yeah, it goes real well with jalapenos and stuff like that.
All right. Well, it's been wonderful talking to you, Tristan. I've really enjoyed, finding out a little bit more about you and what you do. So where can people find your work, and how can people join your Discord group?
So you can find my work at my website, which is tristantodd.photography, or my Instagram, which is tristan.todd. And if you're interested in joining the Discord, there's a link on my website in the footer.
Fantastic. Thanks again, Matt.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to Landscape Photography World. I hope you enjoyed the show, and keep listening, because I'll be joined by some great guests in upcoming episodes. You can find my work in this podcast at grantswinburnphotography.com. I'm also on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook. I'm Grant Swinburne, and hope to see you out shooting soon.